Hello, and welcome to the Global News podcast on the BBC, where we look behind the headlines to focus on one story and why it matters. Today, we are looking at the surge in violence between the Taliban government in Afghanistan and Pakistan, who have declared a state of open war. Well, joining us now is our South Asia and Afghanistan correspondent, Yogita Limaye. Yogita, great to have you with us. First of all, bring us up to date. What is the latest in this round of fighting?
So on Friday morning, we woke up to the news that Pakistan had launched airstrikes in multiple locations in Afghanistan, including the capital, Kabul. We spoke to residents in Kabul who talked about being woken up abruptly from their sleep, hearing the sound of loud explosions, their homes shaking. And when they went out into the street, they heard jets flying overhead. And the Pakistani government since confirmed that it had launched airstrikes in multiple places in Afghanistan. So Kabul city, the provinces of Paktia in the east, and the province of Kandahar, which is the stronghold and the birthplace of the Taliban government. Now, what this followed was a night of hectic cross-border strikes between the two sides. And late on Thursday night, Afghanistan's Taliban government had actually said they had launched cross-border operations targeted at Pakistani military positions close to the border. They claimed they had captured some of those posts and they had also captured and killed some Pakistani soldiers. This is a claim that Islamabad denies. But this is the latest serious escalation after months of hostilities between the two sides. And I think when you ask the question of who started the aggression, I think the answer will change depending on which side you ask.
Yogita, Pakistan has for decades maintained this strategic relationship with the Taliban in Afghanistan. It suited them for a range of issues. How has it now come to this? Why are they fighting each other now?
It's a really interesting turn of events because 5 years ago in 2021, when the Taliban took over Afghanistan after the US withdrawal and foreign forces withdrew from the country and the collapse of the former Afghan government, uh, Pakistan was their closest ally. Most of the Taliban's leadership have, at some point or the other, been based in Pakistan. When you speak to them on the ground, a lot of them speak in Urdu, the language that is spoken in Pakistan. And so it is really interesting that these very close ties have now turned in such a way that today, one side, Pakistan's defense minister really saying they're in an open war with Afghanistan. I think what's happened over the past couple of years is that Pakistan has increasingly seen a spate of attacks. It says carried out by Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or the Pakistani Taliban or the TTP. And what Pakistan has subsequently been saying over the past 1 year is that it has conclusive evidence that the TTP, their handlers, their leadership are based in Afghanistan, and that Afghanistan's Taliban government is supporting these militants as they carry out these attacks in Pakistan. So that is the point of contention. Afghanistan's Taliban government, of course, says that it's got nothing to do with these attacks, that its territory is not being used to target the security of any foreign country, and that Pakistan's attacks against Afghanistan are unprovoked.
Yogita, is the name of that group a coincidence? What's their actual relationship with the Taliban in Afghanistan?
I think that's really hard to say at the moment. When you speak to, the Afghan Taliban, which is now the Taliban government in Afghanistan, uh, they will never openly admit that there are ties to the Taliban that operates, or the Pakistani Taliban, or the TTP as it's called. And right now, on the record, they are saying that they don't actually have anything to do with the TTP or its strikes within Pakistan. The problem with reporting on this ongoing violence or hostilities, whatever you might call it, is what we don't know. And there is a lot that we don't know, simply because Afghanistan is not an easy country to access under the Taliban. There's lots of restrictions on journalists. And especially the border areas, it's always really difficult to get accurate and verified information from there about what has happened on the ground. and about potential ties, between the Afghanistan Taliban government and militant groups that might be operating in Pakistan. But it's also difficult from the Pakistani side because the Pakistan government doesn't make it easy to go close to the border areas. It's hard for our colleagues who are based there to actually have any independent verification of what might be going on there.
You spoke a bit about TTP, the Pakistani Taliban. That's obviously one militant group, albeit a very prominent one that's very often in the headlines. Reports that Al-Qaeda are on the rise in Afghanistan. And when the Taliban took over in 2021, there were large concerns and fears that the country would once again become an unfettered haven for militants and terror groups. You have managed to report from Afghanistan recently. Tell us, what did you find when you visited the country? What is the situation there these days?
I've questioned the Taliban spokesman several times about this over the past 4.5 years, about what their connection to Al Qaeda is, about these reports that this might be a safe haven again for Al Qaeda, and whether they were providing that. And again, on the record, they have said there are no links to Al Qaeda. That if there were any ties between them, they've severed those ties. That's what they say on the record. I also talk about ISKP, or Islamic State Khorasan province, which is the regional affiliate of Islamic State, which had, well, it's claimed attacks in Pakistan, but it's also claimed lots of attacks in Afghanistan as well through the years. And so, again, when you bring up the topic of ISKP with the Afghan Taliban, on the record, they say, no, we've destroyed them, we've acted against them, we've got strong security, we've destroyed all of their hideouts. When the reality is that, on the ground, when you're in particularly, I would say, the eastern provinces of Nangarhar, of Kunar, Taliban on the ground will admit that there are areas where they believe that ISKP is operational. So I wouldn't say, that you're never going to find the evidence to definitively say they do or do not exist, but these are the indicators that we have on the ground.
Pakistan has made this announcement that it is now in a state of open war with Afghanistan, and it dismissed the Taliban's recent strikes as drone strikes. It downplayed sort of the sophistication of the Taliban response. What is the status of the Taliban's armed forces now? What is their military capability?
Pakistan is ahead on military might by a long mile. They have hundreds of tanks, they have hundreds of aircraft, they've got very sophisticated defense equipment. The Taliban government in Pakistan, of course, it's very secretive about what it has in terms of military capabilities. We've asked for many years to have access to, anything really as far as, when they're ensuring security of their concern, and we've never been given that access. We do know that they have military equipment, which was left behind by the former Afghan and foreign forces. So there is artillery equipment, there are tanks, there are helicopters, certainly, because we have seen those actually being used. But as far as we know, they do not have the planes or the capability to launch airstrikes. However, now in this standoff, they have said, and Pakistan has also confirmed, that there have been drone strikes. And of course, we've seen all over the world that the usage of drones are cheap. It's easy to train people on how to use them. And they have altered battlegrounds all over the world. So undoubtedly, it will alter, how this standoff, how these tensions, how these hostilities play out in the future as well.
And Yogita, what has the reaction been in the region and the wider continent?
So I think we have seen, offers to mediate. So even in October 2025, when we saw this escalate, there were countries that came in to mediate, notably Qatar and Turkey. There were talks that were held in Doha, in Istanbul. And while, both sides agreed to a fragile ceasefire, which has obviously been broken now, there was never any sort of consolidated broader agreement. I don't think either side necessarily wants a protracted war, or that is what at least they're saying. But I guess the question is, are both sides being honest about what it is that this this standoff is really about. So on the face of it, of course, Pakistan saying there are these militant groups, the Taliban government refusing to acknowledge that these groups are there and that they're actually helping them, and so they're not actively doing anything to prevent them from launching attacks in Pakistan. And that's what's happening on the face of it. But I can tell you with my experience in covering Afghanistan particularly, that it's not. You never know sort of what is happening and why, what is the real reason for these hostilities. And so I think until they get to that, until they say that openly and clearly of what they want, it's really hard to see any kind of mediation resulting in anything but a temporary ceasefire.
Thank you, Yogita. Yogita Limaye, our South Asia and Afghanistan correspondent. That's all from us on the Global News Podcast here on YouTube. If you enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe. If there is a story you would like us to cover, please do leave a comment here below. Don't forget, you can always stay up to date with the latest international news from the BBC Newsroom. Do subscribe to us on the Global News Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.